35 minutes and talk about Bill Andrews. But first and foremost, it couldn't be any better than last week's Spotlight. It was absolutely priceless. And to John and Bonnie, just a tremendous hard act to follow, almost as hard an act to follow as the YouTube that we just saw here this morning. But I'd like to start by introducing Bill Andrews. Bill is the brother of Bruce Andrews, and for those of you that don't know, they're identical twins.
By marriage.
By marriage. one of many enjoyable snippets. We've all heard the stories of their high school days where one of them gets the 99-yard touchdown kickoff return that goes to the record books, and the record book gives the other one credit. The yearbook picture in which one of them is the track star and the name under the photo is the other one's name. But those don't come by accident. The great athletic skills often start with dads, and one of the common things that Bill and I enjoy, in addition to a 35-year friendship. By the way, we haven't talked, so he has no idea what I'm going to say, and I have no idea what he's going to say, other than I did call him to see how many perfect attendance he's got in elementary school, and I think the answer was 0, if I'm not mistaken. But Bill's dad, Dr. Andrews, nickname is Wheaties. Now, for those of you that are our age, if your name is Wheaties, you had to be an athlete, because back in those days, the pinnacle of athletic success was to have your picture on the cover of the Wheaties box. And Wheaties was an athlete, high school ball player, and he was on the team that Woody Hayes first coached when he started coaching. And one of the segues, Woody's wife Ann was from New Philadelphia, and they became lifelong friends through the wives. And just roll the clock forward, Bill met his bride, Kathy, in high school. They were actually lab mates their junior year in chemistry class. Now, I have no idea how they did in the chemistry grades, but the chemistry part he aced, because 3 years later, their sophomore year in college, they got married, and a year after that, they had their first child, Steve, of 2 boys, their second son, Brian. But picture this, 6 years to get an architectural degree, and Bill is a very successful architect. 3 years into the picture show, he's now married with child, trying to go to school full-time, 40-hour-a-week job to support family and son, and still just hits the ball out of the park. Absolutely spectacular. We roll the clock forward as Rotarians, and I would just like to share a few of the Rotary things. Ann did such a nice job, and I was hoping she'd be here this morning to just compliment her on what makes our Rotary Club success. And for those of you that weren't here, and for our guests this morning, we identified some things that really made our club successful, and maybe some things that could make our club successful going forward. But one of the things that I think we all came away with was the friendships and the business relationships that we build from Rotary. And just a few of those. First of all, Bruce doesn't go anywhere without, or Bill doesn't go anywhere without Bruce. Bruce doesn't go anywhere without Joel Campbell. And Joel and I and Bruce have just done many, many things together. When Debbie Lutz started Salvation Army, we were the first or some of the first to volunteer. We take the first week every year. We've done it since the beginning. Back in those days, they had big bear stores, so when the women would come out of the stores, we have the Salvation Army kettle. We said, you have a choice. You can either give us a big bear hug or make a contribution to Salvation Army. They have never had a more successful weekend than that weekend. We didn't get any hugs, by the way. When we started Arctic Open, we're the first ones to show up every morning. The 4 of us with John Susie set out the pins and things for everybody to get set up. We have had birthday parties over the years together, and we've now reached the age where a fun evening is during birthdays. All 4 of us are born within 3 weeks of each other. on the calendar year. Some are a little older than others. And now we just try and find a restaurant with a nice glass of wine, and the objective is to see who can have the funniest card about age. But it's a friendship that's lasted all of these years, and so many of those memories that we have together are memories that have come from our Rotary experience. One last comment that I'll make to just share with you what a prince of a guy Bill is. Early in his memory, I was fortunate enough to invite Bruce and Joel and Bill to join the club, which they immediately accepted, and I was thrilled, and I think we have all enjoyed that participation. Early in their time, Bruce and Bill seemed to always win the small pots. Well, roll the clock forward a couple weeks, Bill wins the large pot, $1,768. It might have been 12 or 14 years ago. I remember the amount to this day. He stood up in the chair over here and said, I want to give $1,000 back. I want to buy a Rotary Paul Harris Award for my father. And just chats about his relationship. Our dads are very close. In fact, 4 years ago this week, our dads passed away one day apart. And for the 2 or 3 previous years, we'd always, how's Dad doing? How's, boom. Dad leaves, I'm in Alabama. The very next day, I get the call that Bruce and Bill's dad had passed, and I was so disappointed that I couldn't be there to pay my respects. But it was that Rotarian brotherhood that we have shared over time, and I'm just very proud to introduce Bill Andrews, successful architect, to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Today is May 4th, 44 years ago today, the tragedy at Kent State, 4 students killed. It's a moment a lot of us in this room can vividly remember, a moment of tragedy. Out of the ashes of that tragedy blossomed a wonderful, loving relationship. And I'll share this little brief story about Paige. As a student at Miami University, the university, as a lot of universities in Ohio and around the country, were shut down. Students were told to just go home. He had just had about 2 dates with a beautiful young co-ed sorority sister, and we're just sort of getting started. And she looked at him and said, "Hey, your family's down in Alabama. How would you like to come home with just to stay with my family for a while here in Ohio?" So Paige went home with the young woman, and one thing led to another. And about a year or so later, Paige and Cheryl were married the day they both graduated from Miami University. So you want to think about remembering something. I'm a firm believer behind every good woman there's a good man. And this is the case with Cheryl.
I'm married way above my pay grade.
Parents of 2 lovely daughters, Kelly and Kristen. They have a nice little group of grandchildren filling their lives today. Paige, I met him 35 years ago when he was just getting started in the banking business. Paige, his career grew through the former State Savings Bank to the top C-suite, top leadership of that bank. He went on to start his own bank with some folks, and that was a very successful bank. And then he is now doing consulting work in residential real estate development. Paige is a quiet contributor to our community. In years past, he was very involved in the Dublin Chamber. He is involved with the Dublin Methodist Hospitals Foundation and Development Board. And he and Cheryl quietly are very, very strong philanthropists, providing funding for things that in their mind are very important in their lives. Paige and Cheryl are just top-notch folks. I'm honored to know that they brought me into their lives. Just want to introduce Paige Vornbrock.